guys, welcome back. Welcome back to Adventures in Programming. Tonight we're going to jump right back into React and React Native. This is a continuation of the stream that I previously did a couple earlier this week, or actually it was last week, when I got my first initial taste of React and React Native. And I walked away with a little bit of a sour taste. I come from using Vue.js versus React. And when I started working with React, I definitely saw a steeper learning curve that would be required. Now, I didn't have a problem so much learning it, but I could see from a newcomer coming to React that it would be a lot harder to get started with React. And I think part of the reason is because you got to install so much stuff in order to just get started with React. You got to have a full Webpack and Babel like pipeline, whereas with Vue.js, you just include the Vue.js JavaScript and off you go. You don't need any ES6 syntax or anything. It's a little weird, I thought. What I was doing in the last React stream was we were playing around with creating our first React Native application, and it was going to be a really simple mobile app that searches Twitter for certain tweets. Very, very simple. But it was enough for us to kind of cut our teeth on. Some of the things that I found that were really frustrating was getting just the Android emulator up and running. That was really frustrating. I have the emulator running now, which is cool. And before I even started this stream, the Android emulator tools was like, you got to update everything. And then that was a big pain in the butt because you can't do in-place updates for the Android SDK if you're using command line, which is really wonky. So you got to literally copy the Android SDK to a temporary directory and then tell it to update the old directory, which is just bonkers. Kiss of Fate, welcome to the stream. So glad you could join. If you are interested in React Native, if you have a specific topic that you kind of wanted to see demonstrated or talked about, bring it up. Right now we're just kind of diving in and figuring things out. And so I got the Hacking TV. Hey, welcome, Hacking TV. Thanks for your help earlier. No problem. Hopefully you got it figured out. Kiss of Fate. I'm using React, the complete guide, including Redo, to learn React right now. That's cool. I haven't heard of that resource. I literally just used the main React website. So you've got reactjs.org, and then you have React Native, which the URL is on Facebook's website. Quite honestly, again, and I'm going to do this a lot because I'm an old man and I like to complain. Vue.js has way better documentation than React. So easier learning curve, better documentation. So far, Vue.js is winning in my book. The problem is there's still no good mobile toolkit that can build native applications using Vue.js. There is this project, and I will talk about it. I think it's Apache Weeks, Weex. This is an incubator project under Apache. It has support for building cross-platform UIs using Vue.js, but it is an incubator phase, and what that means is it's not really ready for prime time. Kiss of Fate says Next.js is becoming my favorite. Oh, not another one. Not another framework. Please. Next.js, framework for server-rendered or statically exported React apps. Okay. All right, that's interesting. For everyone who just joined, we are talking about React Native, and possibly writing some code. As I was saying in my previous React stream, we were getting ready, building basically a simple app to search Twitter. And what we first did was we kind of built out our layout, which looks a little like this. Of course, this is an ugly layout. This was really just a test layout, but it gave us a chance to kind of build out our major components for our application. So here in Studio Code, I have my project over here, and I have two components. Test was an old component. That was what we were playing with. So I'm going to go ahead and just toss that. But we do have our tweet component. And this is pretty simple. We're bringing in view, text, image, and style sheet from React Native. When you're bringing those in, those will be converted to the native versions of whatever platform you're building for. So whether that's iOS or Android. What's interesting about React Native and their style sheets is that you create a style sheet object and then you define what looks like style sheet CSS rules in here. It's a little weird. Compared to Vue single page components. And then we have our export default, right? That is some ES6 module love, right? We're exporting a default object or variable or whatever. In this case, we're exporting a default class definition, and we're calling it tweet. We're extending a React component, and again, that's ES6 class extensions. Again, a lot of ES6 dependencies for React. Kiss of Fate, you said, do you use Yarn or NPM for React apps for setting up React Workspace? So using Yarn, and I have found out if you forget you're using Yarn and you accidentally switch over to NPM, it all goes haywire. Sometimes I forget and I just do NPM install and then a module, and then all of a sudden there is some things that are all of a sudden missing from my project. So I did follow so I am using React Native, and they have a getting started article, and they talk about a quick start, which uses this create React Native app, which is supposed to be just an installer for boilerplate. So it sets up the skeleton application and all of your package requirements, and it creates a skeleton a little bit like this. So in your package.json, it's going to set up your scripts, which utilizes React Native scripts, and your dependencies, which is small. For this project, I've installed base64 and query string, and I'll tell you why in a moment, and you'll probably cry along with me. React Native will start from app.js, and it's pretty standard over here. We were playing around a lot with the various components and just kind of checking them out. So I have a very long import here. We were trying out buttons, alerts, scroll views, flat list, trying to understand the difference between flat list and scroll view. Hey, Stupid Hat. Hey, man, welcome back. Glad to see you here. Thank you for returning over and over again. I really appreciate it. Maybe later tonight we'll go back into my Nintendo emulator in JavaScript. That would be kind of cool. But I promised to stream on React, and I'm going to stick to it. So in app.js, what's really interesting is how you set up state in React components. You do it in a class constructor, and you assign it to a state property of the component. Here in my example where we were just setting up some scaffolding test data, we have search content, and then we have an array of tweets, and we were kind of followed maybe this format. Most likely we'll need to change it after getting some data from Twitter, and then we have a handle search change. This is a custom method that I wrote. This will be called whenever I am updating my search criteria. And you can see here that React has an interesting way on how you set state or update state. You actually have to call set state, which will call a function using and then pass in the previous state, and then you can transform it, and then whatever you return becomes a new state. Really kind of weird. Definitely different than from Vue.js, but understandable. And so you see how when I return, I'm returning new search criteria, right? I'm assigning text to search content, and then I have previous tweets. So I'm pulling in my old state and just passing in the same tweets. Stupid Hat says, fine with you streaming anything. Any extra knowledge is good. That's awesome. If you have any questions, please let me know. I will answer them. And if I don't know the answer, we will find out together. I promise. Kimberly Codes, welcome back. So glad to see you. Hope classes are going well for you. So yeah, this handling state in React is a little bit interesting. This is where I find it gets really, really wonky. I feel like weird decisions were being made here. There is a method called render in React components, and you return what looks like XML, but it's actually JSX. It's a extension to JavaScript, aka I call it the dirty little hack, which you have to pass in well-formed XML. So welcome, if you are only experienced with HTML5, you're probably going to look at that weird closing syntax and go, what the hell is that? Yeah, that's like from XHTML, XML days. Yeah, you still have to use it now. So I feel like we're doing a step backwards, which is weird. And then in here, in this JSX, you may pass in like a style, and you're passing in an object with attributes that don't even necessarily look like CSS. It's so weird. Hacking TV, Adventures in Programming, Valet installed successfully. Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. Before this stream, I was having dinner, and I'm like, oh, I'll casually pop into some programming streams. What could go wrong? I started watching Hacking TV, and he was in the middle of installing Xdebug, a debug extension for PHP for his development environment. And he was having a little trouble, and I'm like, oh, PHP, I'm like a super pro at that. I'll help him out. And together we managed to completely break his environment. Yeah. So, of course, I had to leave, and he managed to fix it because I was no longer there to help continue breaking things. So I'm glad to see that you got it up and running. I am really excited to see what you build. I hope that you get to show me soon. So, yeah, it's a little weird. And in here, you have a flat list, which is used to iterate over an array of items. And so you're passing in what that data would be, and then render item, which then you're passing in a closure and passing in the item. You got to still do the curly mustache brackets. And then that also does a nested return. This feels really, really dirty. It does. If you're familiar with React, tell me, is this the React way? Is it? Because it feels weird. It feels fugly. Like, yeah, I got little weird goosebumps. So yeah, we got that, and we created our style sheet object because sure, why not? We also have, we started. So we had our scaffold and we had our example, but now we wanted to actually pull stuff out of Twitter. So if you have any experience writing like Node.js apps and you're like, hey, I want to communicate to Twitter, or maybe you go straight to the Twitter developer documentation and you look at getting started and you say, okay, well, how am I going to do this? And you say, well, there's SDKs all over the place. You could just use any of the SDKs. No, you can't do that, right? The JavaScript SDKs, which you would use in Node.js, are not going to work in React Native. And let me explain why in just a moment. I'm going to, again, Twitter's documentation is, in my opinion, all over the place as well. Let's see if it has, I'm trying to find the links again to the SDKs. Here they don't call it an SDK. They have SDK all over the place, but here they say libraries and utilities. Whatever. So it says libraries built by Twitter, and they only offer Java and Objective-C and Swift. But hey, we're not building native code bases. We're using JavaScript. So these are libraries built for the Twitter platform, and you go, oh, I'll just grab Twitter.js client or user-stream. Those are not going to work. And the reason why is because React Native doesn't have access to the native HTTP libraries that you would potentially use in Node.js. Instead, it actually uses XML, XHR requests. Sorry. God, it's been a while since I did that. So if you're looking at XML HTTP requests, this is stuff that you probably haven't touched in forever, right? Because you're using libraries to abstract this. But React Native exposes XML HTTP requests. Now, all hope is not lost. It just means that you have to download a library, helper library, which uses XML HTTP request underneath. Cool. So I use Axios, which is a fantastic JavaScript HTTP library, promise-based, really nice, fairly popular. If you do come from a Vue land, you're probably already using Axios already. And so I use that. There is a, and I'm just going to pull up NPM here. There is a React Native Twitter. Somebody wrote React Native Simple Twitter. Here's Tipsy Twitter. This was published 6 months ago. Lots of crazy. I don't like it when it's so simple and then you just follow these 20 installation steps. That's not simple. And React Native is supposed to be a little bit simpler for us. We have React Native Twitter. We have React Native Simple Twitter. A lot of these people have done this, and I would say go ahead and use it. The reason why we're not using it in our example is because most of these React Native Twitter SDKs do three-legged OAuth so that they can get a API token for that user's Twitter account, right? So if I used this, it would have me log into Twitter. I don't want to do that, not for this demo. I just want to use what's called the application authentication. So if you go to authentication under the Twitter docs, there's a couple ways that you would do authentication, right? And most of those libraries is going to do what's called user authentication. I'm interested in application-only authentication. So if you look here, application-only authentication is a form of authentication where the application itself makes API requests on its own behalf. There's no user context, right? There's no logged-in user. And so this is totally useful if really all you want to do is access Twitter APIs, the various Twitter APIs, and you don't care about the context of a logged-in user. And it's pretty popular authentication method for server applications or whatever. So, but in our example app, all we want to do is we want to search Twitter for tweets, right? So there was no library that I could easily use. So what do? We build our own OAuth handling, which is a little weird. Now, don't freak out. You're all going to see a consumer key and secret. This is a throwaway consumer key and secret that I kind of registered for a sample app. Most likely after this stream, I'm going to renew those. So don't freak out. Don't scribble them down. Please don't try and hack Twitter with my consumer key and secret. You're not going to get much of anything. So we have to do an OAuth 2 handshake to get an access token ourselves. Okay. And that's where we were. So in here in my React component, this is our app. I'm doing it inside the app. I'm doing my standard thing. I'm setting up. This is weird. I'm going to format document just to kind of clean up the indentation. We have my consumer key and secret. Notice I'm storing this outside of the component. And in my constructor, I am encoding, which what it does is it will encode it will do a base64 encode of the consumer key and the secret bound together with a colon. And the reason why I'm doing that is found in the API documentation in Twitter. It's very, very... If anyone has any experience doing OAuth 2 by themselves, it's horrifically complicated. So anyways, we are encoding our credentials. I am doing some samples here. I can get rid of these now. I think this is working just fine. And in here, I'm setting up my Axios object. So I'm going to send a post to the Twitter API calling OAuth 2 token. That's where we're going to get our access token. Here for data, this is important. You can't pass in a JSON object, a standard JavaScript object. Otherwise, Axios is going to send that as a string encoded JSON, and that's not what you want. You need to do query string.stringify. Query string is a library that I pulled in, and that will basically URL encode the data. So I'm passing in grant type client credentials, and in headers, I'm sending an authorization header of basic with my encoded credentials, content time, blah, blah, blah. And that's where we were. That's where we we're stuck. The next thing that we had to do was grab the response of that and store it as our access token. And that's where we're at. Okay, everybody's caught up? Good, let's code. So I just want to run this one more time. If I get this alert that says got it, it means that at least my initial OAuth 2 handshake was good. I'm also going to do console.log response and see if I can look at the response and see what the data is so that I can figure out what to pull out of it. So it looks like I just ran the emulator, and it looks like I did indeed get an alert. Got it. That's great. Let me go to... Now I'm using the console's functionality in Studio Code, so bear with me. I just switched over to the running React Native build environment. So already, as soon as I saved, it deployed to my emulator, and it already returned something in here. So I'm going to look in here and take a look at the response. So we can see that here, this is really hard to see, I'm sure. I apologize for that. I don't know how to increase the font of anything else in the interface for Studio Code. It appears font size changing is only for the main IDE. Food for thought. So we're in object and we're seeing config. Oh, this is just too much stuff. Too much stuff. This is boring. I want to just get the body. So here we see, I did scroll up and I finally did see response, and it looks like it's a JSON encoded string. You're going to see token type bearer, which is what we want, and an access token. And this value is what we're going to need to pass in to future API calls to Twitter. So we need to parse this out. I can't remember how to get the body from an Axios response object, so we're going to look that up real quick and see how to fetch that. Let's see, there's the Axios API, function response, that's fantastic, but how everybody's returning response. Nobody's getting the body of the response. Hacking TV says, if you open your settings, you can do terminal integrated font size. Oh! Let's try that. Control-B, settings. Let's look that up. Terminal. So far, I'm not seeing it, but you're right. Terminal integrated font size, 18. We're going to change that to 20. Oh, Hacking TV, you win. Good job. Thank you for finding that for me. You all will be able to read that a lot better, I'm sure. So going back to the Axios, really quick, response object is, here we go, response schema. Response schema data is the response that was provided by the server. Okay, I don't know if Axios will immediately understand that it's JSON, so that it will return an object. So let's try that out. We're just going to say response.data, and we're going to save. And it looks like it finished building, and it's running on the emulator, and that's cool. Axios did see that it was a JSON encoded string, so response.data is indeed the token. So I'm going to go ahead and store that in my storage here. Let's see here, in this state. So I think that will be good. Because I'm going to be modifying it, I'm going to put in here access token. It's going to be empty here. Because I'm going to do, I'm going to move this Axios over. I'm using my hands a lot. I'm going to bring this Axios code and just bring it after this state code, just because I'm modifying it after. Yeah, I know it's promise. Leave me alone. And I'm going to bring down encoded as well. Get rid of that lone semicolon. Has anyone seen Ready Player One yet? I saw it opening night. If you've seen it, let me know what you thought of it. No spoilers though. Just tell me yay or nay. And then also tell me, did you read the book or not? It was bothering me. It was bothering me. All right, so we have that. We have got it. What we're going to do is we're going to modify our state, right? So we know that we have to do this, set state. We know we are going to use an arrow function. Again, more ES6 love. If you don't know what this arrow style is, let me know and I'll cover it for you, okay? I think it's one of the fantastic additions to, for ES6. So we're going to return, and see this, someone told me that you could potentially just return the modified attributes. Anyone aware of that? Anyone? I think we should look that up right now. So remember how I said in this set state, I'm returning basically an entire copy of the state? That feels clunky to me, and I'm pretty sure React doesn't need to do that. So let's go to the documentation. And let's see if we can find information on state and lifecycle. So I'm here at state and lifecycle. Hacking TV says, I think you use ... destructuring. Give me a little more info. Give me a little bit more info than that. Okay, so try it on CodePen, converting. Okay, this is fine. Adding local state to a class. Okay, this is where they're showing the constructor and they're doing this at state. Okay, what about updating? Okay, so they have lifecycle methods as well. Component did mount, component will unmount. Vue has those as well. And we see this set state. Okay. Do not modify state directly, so that's interesting. State updates may be asynchronous. And then you can use set state this, previous state, and pass again props. Okay. And it looks like you can just return what's changed. Hacking TV says, sorry, I mean like, and then you sent me a URL, and of course I'm looking at my chat on a different computer, so I'm just going to go MDN and destructuring assignment. See what that is. Yep, that's exactly here. It makes it possible to unpack values from arrays or properties from objects into... Yeah. But I don't think I need to do that. In fact, I think all I have to do is I can do that here and return access token, and we're passing in, just to make sure, access token, and we're going to pass in response.data.access token. Let's just I don't like that underline there, so I'm going to use the array syntax for accessing it. Okay, 13 people on the stream. That's awesome. If you have any questions about React and React Native and I don't know the answer, we'll find out together. If I know the answer, I will try to explain it the best I can. But I am learning React along with you, and it's been an interesting ride so far. You can probably tell by my face if I like it or not. So, okay, now we've set the state, and I think that's good. So let's go ahead, and we know that handle search change will update search content. That's great. And we also want to actually search Twitter. So let's do that. Whew, this is when we're going to get into good stuff. Let's go ahead and look at the Twitter API and see about searching for some tweets, yeah? Let's do that. Search tweets. Standard search. That's what we're going to do. Yes, allows simple queries. A detailed reference on the standard search API endpoint can be found here. Great. So the first thing we need to do is call tweets.json. The parameters, this will be a get, and the parameter will be q, and it will be a URL encoded string, and that all looks pretty straightforward, right? You can do geocode So you can search through Latin long. Okay, that's interesting. Restricting by language, locale. Okay, all right. Let's see about result type. If you provide it, it will include both popular and real-time results. Okay. And then count is the number of tweets to return per page. Defaults to 15. And we're fine with 15. We're just kind of showing this off. Okay. Sounds good. And in the example request, do remember you have to pass in... Oh my gosh. No way. No way do we have to return all of those headers. Let's go back to our authorization here. Application only authentication. Auth flow and then request API. Yeah, this just shows authorization bearer. There's no other additional headers here. Okay, so we have our token. And we have this, an authenticate API with the bearer token. So this, all it says is to create an authorization header of bearer space and then the base64 bearer token value from step 2. Signing is not required. Okay. Let's give it a shot, shall we? We're going to go ahead and do Axios, and we're going to say method is get, and we're going to say data. I think you can do this and Q, and we'll do that, and we'll say text. Okay, and then we also need headers. You know, a lot of people, when they're doing JavaScript objects, they don't do quoted strings. They just do, you know, they just get rid of it and just say method. That works just fine. But you know, sometimes you're going to store things in a JavaScript object that has like dashes and things like that. Especially when you're using like HTTP libraries to set up web requests. And so I've gotten in the habit of, usually, putting my property names into quotes. Still works. It works just fine. But that gives you a lot more functionality. Now, of course, that means you do have to access those properties through the array syntax for an object. But, you know, I like it. So authorization, it says bearer. And then it's the base64 bearer token. So we're going to go ahead and say base64 encode this.state.access token. That's looking pretty good so far. And this is a promise, so we're going to say response. Do we need this? Yeah, we do. So we're going to do that. This again, arrow function coming to the rescue. So we've got response. And, you know, we're just going to do console log response. I just want to see if we're returning anything. Did it build? I can't tell. So we're just going to... Can we force build? Does anybody know? Doesn't look like it. Ah, what is that? I don't see it building anymore. That's silly. Oh, now it's building? See, this is the weird thing about React Native and React Native tools. It gets a little weird. It gets a little stuck. Okay. So it says undefined is not a function. Evaluating this set state. Function previous null. Can't tell where it was. Clicking on our Android here. That's the other problem, is it's very hard to troubleshoot these error messages. If anyone has any experience with React Native and says, hey, you're doing it wrong, there's an easier way to debug, speak up. Because right now I'm a little frustrated at the minimal quality of this. So it looks like that is happening in here. And it says, evaluating this state and function previous, unhandled promise rejection. Type error, undefined is not a function. Well, let's see here. Let's see what we're doing here. This looks pretty good. Just to make sure that it is this piece of code here. And I am... oh, duh. This is why. This is why, because, again, arrow functions. This is why. So the reason why is because I put a regular function definition inside the then promise handler. The this object pointed to that Axios object. So yeah, set state would be undefined. So again, this is another reason why you would want to use arrow functions. That will make sure that this is bound to whatever this is in the outer context, in this situation, the component. And we have to do that twice, right? So we're doing it in here, arrow function, arrow function. I'm pretty sure I sounded like I knew what I was talking about, right? So let's go ahead and make sure. So it says it's running app. I see no issues here, but I didn't console log anything. Okay, so no errors. This is good. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and click on our search field. And T says, can't find variable base64, probably because I called it something else. I called it lowercase base 64, of course. Let's go ahead and change that. I'm scrolling around a lot. 14 people on the stream. Welcome, everybody. I'm glad that you could join me and see me fumbling through here. Let's look for that base 64. It's not there anymore. Okay, we're good. Yes, let's go. Did it build? Yes. Okay, we're running. Let's try searching again. We're just gonna press a key. And we have some errors here. Says cannot load an empty URL. Hey, it would help. It would really help if we put in a URL, huh? Sheesh. Sheesh. Okay, the search, the standard search URL is here. So let's go ahead and grab that. Paste that sucker in. Iterative. It's very iterative, right? Not too fond of it. All right, so method get must not have a request body. Okay, so it's probably not liking the data. So let's just check really quick. It's been a while since I've used Axios in this way. Okay, it's params. Perfect. You know, like, you know, jQuery has its web Ajax handlers. You know, they have the .get and .post helpers, and they wrap around the overall jQuery Ajax function, right? Same with Axios. It has get helpers and post helpers, but then you don't have a very easy way to customize the config of that request. So using just Axios and then passing in a full configuration object gives you the most control. But I don't normally use it that way. Okay, yeah, we know. Can we get out of here? Dismiss? Okay. Oh, awesome. Thank you so much, Ebersmol, for following. Hopefully that means that you're enjoying the stream, maybe learning a thing or two, or just laughing your butt off at like, dude, how come you can't even figure this out? Let's use this and hit. I have a feeling it didn't send a new build because I'm not even getting anything. unless it worked. And I doubt that heavily. So in fact, what we'll do is we'll even, in fact, I am console logging here. So let's, again, this is really annoying. It's hard to force the React Native tools to build. HelioBud says, hey, what you making, man? We're learning React and React Native together. And I felt that an easy way to do that would be through a simple application. So we're just building a simple React Native app that searches Twitter for some tweets and shows it. We've built out a simple component. We have our main app. It looks like an engineer designed it. I mean, look at that beautiful design, right? But we're trying to get our point across. And now we're getting to the point where we're talking to the Twitter API to get results. And then we're going to get those, populate our flat list with that, and then clean it up a little bit, and then see how far we can go. HelioBud, thank you so much for following. I appreciate it. Hopefully I gave you a little bit of info to continue to stay tuned. We'll continue working on React and React Native. If there's something that you want to see built, if there's something that you want to see checked out, or anything like that, let me know, and we'll dive into it together. You know, no specific application goal in mind. We're here for the learning. So let's see here. We are going to console log, and let's go ahead and go to our app, and we're just going to click on our search here and just hit T. It's going to do the search, and then it says request failed with status code 401. 401. And that's going to be an unauthorized. So it looks like the authorization header did not get properly sent, or Twitter's just not accepting it. To get a little bit more information on that, we're going to go ahead and do catch, and then we're going to get error, and we'll do the arrow for this, and we're going to just console log error response. I think that'll do it. Okay, we probably have a new build here. Let's just check. Okay, now we have our error here, so let's go ahead and take a look. It says invalid or expired token. And let's look at our header, and it says bearer, and it looks like we are definitely base64 encoding the hell out of a bearer token. Let's just make sure, we're going to go back to the authentication page for Twitter, and we're going to just make sure we have everything going on here. We have here authorization, so we're doing this, absolutely. Authorization bearer. And let's see here. Okay, it says here the bearer token may be used to issue request API endpoints which support application-only auth. That's what we want. To use the bearer token, construct a normal HTTPS request and include an authorization header with the value of bearer space base64 bearer token value from step 2. So I'm wondering if the token is already base64 encoded. We'll just check that. Okay. It's running now. And let's press a key. Whoa! We got a lot more. And I know that status is 200. We definitely got a response. That was it. Looks like the access token is already there. And yeah, we definitely got a lot of data there. That was cool. Let's just go ahead and do response data just so that we have a little bit more clarity here. And is it going to build? Is it going to build? See, that's the thing. Sometimes it doesn't pick up the changes. Come on, React Native. Get with the program. So I'm just going to hit T. And yeah, we definitely have an array of responses. And it looks like each tweet has quite a bit of data. We're only going to be interested in a few things. But maybe we can just shove all of it into our state. That might be good. So let's keep scrolling up till we see the beginning. And of course, it's too far. Farther than our scroll back. The other thing that we probably want to change now is it doesn't make a lot of sense for me to hit every key that it keeps searching. there's a lot of things, there are UX paradigms there where you can do live typing in search, but we don't want to abuse Twitter's API. So what we'll probably do is we'll just put a button in here to activate the actual search. So let's do that now. Let's go ahead and minimize this window here. Rank Up David says, nice to see you online again. Thank you. I took a couple days off to spend some time with the missus and also to see Ready Player One. Has anyone seen Ready Player One? Let me know what your thoughts were. But I'm glad to be back and streaming. Tomorrow's going to be a full day stream. 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Nothing but Nintendo emulator magic. I'm going to be working on my Nintendo emulator written in JavaScript and Vue.js. It's going to be a huge nerdy time. It'd be great to see as many of you there to cheer me on and see if we can find out how to get that Nintendo emulator working. But today, React Native. We got to stick to it, right? Okay, so we've got tweets here, which we'll probably reassign. I'm going to look... and we also want to take care of that button bit, right? Here again is the weirdness of React and React Native. I have to go to my render method and take a look at things here. And we have text input. We're going to just put a button here. And I totally forgot the syntax for this. So I'm going to go to the React Native components and click on button. And take a look at the API here. Props on press. On press is what you want. So we're going to do on press, and we're going to pass in this handle search change, right? That's good. And other props is title, right? Sure. Search would be a good one. There's a couple things here. Such as color of the text, or background color of the button. So that's a little inconsistent, but hey, who knows? And then let's go ahead and add that and see it in our UI. Okay. Pretty good. In my emulator, I've got the nav bar translucent, and it's really weird. I don't know why it's that way, so I might add some padding to the top to bring everything down. And also, I should group the search and the search together as buttons. But again, we're just kind of winging it right now. Let's see here. Text input width. Can we do 100%? 100%? I wonder how it would take that. It would take it just fine, quite honestly. And in here, I'm going to do, let's margin top, maybe? Let's see if we have to pass in anything. It totally didn't take that. So margin top is not a proper style sheet. Let's see about style sheet, and let's see about margin. Well, that doesn't really help much, does it? You probably were like, I couldn't even see that. So we're looking at style here. Can this tell us what styles it supports? Why has it got to be so difficult? Why has it got to be so difficult? Yeah, don't know about that. But anyways, let's get beyond that. So we're going to take the on change handler out of our text because we don't want to do that searching anymore nonstop. Okay, that's fine. And so now if we do, we'll search for, oh, it's obviously not doing a new build yet, because why would it see my changes there? There we go. Oh, and it did do the margin top. That's nice. That's nice. Of course, my keyboard's not working anymore, so we're just going to search for my Twitter handle and just search. Anything? Woo! Lots of issues here. So what happened here? Warning, this synthetic event is reused for performance reasons. If you're seeing this, you're accessing the property type on a released nullified synthetic event. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Let's talk about Yellowbox, React Native Yellowbox. Sorry, don't know what the heck you're talking about there. Definitely not what I was doing. Okay, so we know we're returning something. Let's take a look at what the response should be like. Where is that? So we're going to go over here to tweets. We're going to go to search. Standard search. Yes. Documentation on the API. Thank you. Finally, can we get there? So example request and then example response. It's called statuses. Isn't that interesting? Statuses. The Twitter API doesn't call it tweets. It calls it statuses. So that's interesting. So what we can do is we can just shove statuses into our tweets. Let's do that. So here's our handle search change. We're going to say this set state. And we're going to go ahead and do previous arrow. And we're going to say return tweets equals response.data.statuses. Cool. Yeah. Now, most likely when I search, my flat list will probably freak out. Because it's pulling things out of those objects which probably are not what's to be expected, right? Username, content, avatar, URI. Let's just save. That's an assumption of mine, and we're gonna check that. Test and search. Anything? Bueller? Still these weird errors. It's really interesting. It says, if you're seeing this, you're accessing the property is trusted. No, I'm not accessing anything like that. Really frustrating. Okay. It might be because maybe I'm returning something. What is... Let's look at my console logs. I am catching something here. I am catching my error response. It's really weird. I don't know why. Maybe that's old. Rank Up David says the API dev thought he was working at Facebook. Probably. This is more, again, mobile development. I'm glad I don't do it anymore. So we have response.data statuses, and we're going to go ahead and go into our flat list, and we're going to start putting some stuff in here. Yeah. The first thing we want to put in, now remember we're using our tweet component. So if we go into our tweet component, we know that we're accessing a couple props called avatar URI, username, and content. So let's find out what those are in here. So we know it returns text. So each one of these objects will be will have an attribute called text. So let's go ahead and put that in. So text. Or actually, you know what? Let's leave our tweet alone and let's have this actually converted here. So item.text, and let's figure out what the username is. So we have the tweet ID, right? String representation of the tweet, and entities hash. So what's in here? User mentioned URLs. Okay, so this is extra entities that would provide like URLs to view the tweet directly. That might be interesting. Metadata, source, no idea what that is. Oh, that's probably the source of the tweet. What posted the tweet? And then we have a user object. User and then name. We actually probably want their screen name, right? User screen name. So let's do that. Item user screen name. Yeah. And then one last thing is avatar URI, the picture of the URI. So let's see if there is that. So we see profile background, and then we see profile image URL, right? So let's just pull this out, and I just want to preview it to see if this is indeed what we're looking for. Yep, that's exactly what we're looking for. So we need user.profile_image URL. User profile image URL. Okay. So far, it looks good. Ish. Good-ish. Let's see here. We have this view, text input button, flat list. That's good. You know, it's really weird that I'm getting these problems here. Let's go ahead and save. Is it, again, it's having trouble picking up my changes. So frustrating. Let's get out of here. Yeah, it's not even picking up my changes. I wonder if there's a way to like force build. I just hit A again to start Android again. Start the Android build, maybe? We'll see. Doesn't look like anything's here. Silly. Let's do capital R. It says restart packager and clear cache. Let's do that. So now it's restarting packager. Oh, it's so frustrating sometimes. I hate that it won't pick up when I've modified the file and rebuild. It's annoying. It's definitely annoying. See, I don't even see anything here. Let's hit A to open the Android. And let's watch our emulator freak out. Yeah, I don't see anything. Cool beans. Why? Why would it decide to work now? We were making such horrible progress. This is something that is constantly happening. Every time. Like it gets into a broken state. So we're going to go ahead and close the packager. We're going to go to my emulator and totally close it. It's saving state. We don't want that. We need to cold boot the emulator. I don't want any of the previous emulator state to run this, so I forgot how to do it. Emulator cold boot. Rank Up David, thank you so much for becoming a follower. Finally, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Hopefully you join us for our wonderful full-day stream tomorrow on building our Nintendo emulator in JavaScript. That is fun. Let's go to cold boot. What is the no snapshot dash load? Okay. Snapshot dash load. Let's figure that out. Of course not. Oh, it's single dash. Why would it follow any kind of normal, similar syntax of any other tool out there? Okay, so we have our emulator rebooted. Let's go back to our bash shell and try this again. Let's see if we do yarn Android. That looks like it's a target for yarn. Hey, everybody who has joined us. We are diving into React and React Native, always running into emulator problems with the Android SDK. What a pain in the butt. Everybody know about the recent federal court and their ruling of Oracle versus Google, basically saying that Google was in the wrong for using Java for building Android. Yeah. What's that going to mean? What's that going to mean for Android? It's a big one. It says here, type error, undefined is not an object, evaluating item user screen name. You know why? Because we have our test tweets in here. So we're going to go ahead and empty that out. We're going to save. Yeah, I mean, the federal... So originally Google won, and then, of course, Oracle decided to take them back to court. And this time the federal judge ruled in Oracle's favor and says Google owes Oracle a buttload of money for using Java, which is supposed to be kind of like public domain usage for using Android. And this is obviously Oracle's way of trying to get royalty fees for Android. So, you know, every time somebody picks up an Android device, Oracle gets some change in their pocket. That's pretty effing rude, right? Okay, so let's open up our emulator. Yes, we know that was a problem. It says building JavaScript bundle in my emulator. Not sure why. I just tried to save again, and yeah, it doesn't. Is it building again? No. Because of that error, like now I'm stuck again. Is there any options to save here? To view your app with live reloading, point the expo. Well, this is if you want to use your actual physical phone, which I don't want to do right now. I only want to use my emulator. And then logs from serving your app will appear here. Yes, we get that. But it won't rebuild. That's it. We got to find a solution to this problem. Force rebuild. Let's do it. How to rebuild or recompile libraries. How to do this. A lot of people are trying to figure this out. But I don't see anything there. See? Now I just made a change of just ripping it out and off it builds. Okay, so we have our search. Let's search for test. And of course I haven't bound the enter or the return to search, so we'll have to click search. And then here it goes. This synthetic event is reused for performance reasons. If you're seeing this, etc., etc. Let's figure out what the heck this means. Okay, because this came up quite a few times. Let's scroll up to our first one of this. Warning, this synthetic event is reused for performance reasons. If you're seeing this, you're accessing the property target on a released nullified synthetic event. And it has a stack trace here, and we're going to see if there's anything that I did here. We see dispatch here. That's good. So it might be in my handle search change. I don't see it necessarily. You know, I see set state, this previous catch here, but let's see what's going on here. Let's grab this, and we're just going to copy that real quick, and let's go on a hunt. Of course, lots of people have this. And what is it? Why am I getting warning about synthetic events in my React redo? Well, we don't know. I wonder. So I wonder what's causing this. pass the synthetic event directly in my action payload. I'm not doing anything like that. Let's, instead of doing set state, let's just empty this to see if that gets rid of it, and if so, then we know we've cut it down to that part. So let's search and see if an error comes up. So far, nothing. Afades says you want event.native event, but I'm not doing any event. I'm not handling any event. That's the problem, right? I'm not, the only thing that triggered that problem was I called this set state inside a Axios promise handler. So that's the weird thing here. Fuzzy little man Peach, welcome back. Good to see you. Glad to see that you could join. We're hacking on React and React Native right now, and just trying to get through some of it here. This set state, it looks like, is causing that. So let's go ahead and copy this one more time. I'm going to do a Google search, but this time also add set state. And warning, fixing React warning synthetic events in set state. Rank Up David says, that's interesting. Maybe Oracle's trying to offset the eventual decline of their commercial database revenue. Well, you know, they got Oracle, which I don't think that's going anywhere in regards to their database revenue there. They have so much professional services around Oracle that I don't think there's much of a problem there. I haven't heard anything in regards to Oracle's enterprise database market share declining. Of course, they have MySQL, right? They purchased MySQL, and now you have the community fork of MariaDB. And I don't think MySQL is working out for them very well. They're not handling the development of that very, very nicely. And then you have Java, which has had sharp declines in market share. What is the one thing that Java has that is increasing? That's Android. That's mobile. So, of course, they're going to want to try and get a piece of that pie because more than likely any revenue that they had from Java is slowly declining. That's my take on it. You are absolutely right. So let's read this and try and figure this out. Problems using event.target within set state. I came across an unexpected console error and warning. Yes, yes, yes. That's fine. Handle change E. It turns out React has its own event system for event handling using synthetic event. Of course you do. Of course you do, React. React synthetic event wraps around the browser's native event to provide cross-browser compatibility support. Instead of passing in the native event to React event handlers, an instance of this synthetic event is passed in. Well, okay. Essentially, synthetic event cannot be used asynchronously because the event will no longer exist after the event callback has been invoked. This is a problem knowing that React set state behavior is asynchronous. Okay. But am I doing that? I don't see myself referring to this here. And it's going crazy. And it's in like for each too, which is really weird. Let's scroll up to where it says this. Target. I'm not doing that. Fuzzy Little Man Piece says, with Android being mentioned, Kotlin seems to be gaining traction. I'm not aware of Kotlin. Maybe not enough traction. Oh, yes. I am aware. And so is Scala. But the problem with this is that it does require... I don't know if it's like Scala, where it does require a JVM. Does it? Or does it have its own JVM? That's a question I have. With Scala, you still need a Java JVM, and it does some transpiling, kind of like TypeScript for JavaScript. All the Firefly says Kotlin can work without a JVM. That is worth checking out. I'm going to star that, and that might be worth a topic for a future stream. So yeah, use React event persist. The problem is I'm not referencing that event. I'm not. Totally not doing that. You know, I see the event being not necessarily here. I wonder if response is a synthetic event in this situation. If it's somehow hijacking this. I'm going to do console log type of response, and this will allow us to kind of dive in here. When I'm done with all this, I might want to dive into debugging React Native and seeing if I can set breakpoints and have something here. Afadis says the text value. It's possible that is. It looks like it's just a string, so it's not the full event. So we'll see about this. And what are you going to say? Still an issue. Still an issue. Big time issue. Oh, you know why? This is why. Duh. I totally know. Afada says, sorry, you're too lagged for me to change your code. I mean the text value either on your on change or on click. Yes, you know, this is absolutely why. This is the change. Because I moved the handle search change from the on change and text input, I put it into on press on button. That's the problem. And so that means that obviously I'm not going to get a text parameter, right? So I need to have let text equal question mark, right? What we need is model binding. What we need is model binding. Now in Vue, this is done pretty easily in the markup, but how would we get the model binding? So let's take a look at that real quick. Let's go to text in the components. So yes, nested text, containers, limited style inheritance, etc., 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 etc. But we don't see anything in regards to model binding. React model binding. So, is that possible? Let's see. We have... Really? Really? Do we not have that kind of helper functionality in React? Do we not? Do we not have that ability? Rank Up David says, I don't think React does that. Then what good is it? What good is it? All the Fireflies. I'll tell you what I'll do. This will be it. You know, and I'll show you why. You know, in Vue, you could easily just do input v model equals search string, right? And so what would happen there is search string is a property in your component's data model or in its state, and Vue will simply handle it so that anytime you are typing in that input field, boom, that is changed. Anytime you change that property in the data model, boom, what you see in the input field changes. All the Fireflies says set state can take a callback to remove the async problem too. Yes, React data only flows up. No, I don't. You can pass in a prop, and I assume that when you change the prop, the value will change. But here I'm going to have to do an on change equals, and then that. And I can and I bet you I can do an inline property. Set state. See, this is just so gross. It's just not clean enough for me. We're going to rename that to query. And see if that works. Failed building. Yeah, okay. I need to know why, though. Will you tell me why? Will you tell me why, JavaScript? This, I tried to do it like this, and I don't know if on change, if I need to put this in curly. Failed building JavaScript bundle. Yeah, okay, but why? Can you give me a little more of an error? React, you piece. I was hoping maybe I can do an inline function, but it doesn't look like I can. If I do this and you find out that I can actually, please let me know. What am I doing here? This set state, previous return query equals text. Yeah, I know. Oh, it might just be that. Let's go ahead and comment this real quick. Check out forms. I'm going to. I'm going to. Oh yes, I will. Right after I test this. 400. Maybe because... Ooh, I'm getting a bouncer complaint. Ooh. Query parameters are missing. Yeah, that would be because I have this state.query. Or I could just say text. Actually, just to be more explicit. Oh, and this set state, yeah, that's asynchronous, huh? Yeah, I don't want that. This needs to go away. Anyways. Set state can take an object if you want to skip out on passing it a function. Really? Let's do that. Curly bracket hell. No. because, you know, I need more curly braces in my life. Yeah, you only need function if you want to use a previous state in your call. Yep. Okay. That sounds good. Thanks, guys. But do you happen to see this be normal? Sometimes this inline, if you know you're only going to use it in that handler, because it feels gross. It feels weird. Let me know. This text equals this dot state query, and then yada yada yada. Still having an issue here. Let's see what our request is. Query parameters are missing. Headers, params q equals undefined. This state query. Just to say console.log text query. Not liking it so far. T. Query undefined. So yeah, you'd want to use event target value instead of text. For that event handler, you'd want to use event target value. But that text is all that's going to get returned from the onChange. It's not returning an event. It's returning a string. Going to return a string. It's not going to return an event. It's saying undefined. Is it because I've got the curly braces in here? It might be. There, it did return an object. But we are still getting those problems, right? The synthetic event is reused for performance reasons, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and remove this. And we're calling it update query. Just because I can't do inline functions like that. It's too much. So is Vue two-way data binding? Yep. It's the bomb. It's the bomb. It's the bomb. Totally is. So we have update query. And then when we click on handle search change, yes, the update query is doing that. Okay, we're going to try it. We're going to try it. We're going to try it. Text dot. So we're going to, just to do this, we're going to do event. And you're saying target, but we need this to be persist, right? No, it doesn't look like that. It's just eTarget value. Yes? OnChange text. It's probably it. It's probably it. text input. Props. Yeah, okay, I see what you mean. On change text will actually just get a text. Where on change will get an event. You're exactly correct, guys. So I'm going to redo all of that and then go back to my on change text. Question. Why? Why would you have two? Why would you have on change versus on change text? Why not just always work with event objects? It seems silly. Undefined is not a function. It's probably because it doesn't have access to this. Update query. You see what I have to deal with? Psh. Psh. Still not. Let's call this search. And let's have our button be called this search. Okay. We're doing update query on change text. On change text is supposed to return update query is supposed to return or reset the state, return query text, right? And then search is supposed to say, hey, let text equal this.state.query. I'm going to do in query is blank. And just because you said so, just passing in that. See if that helps. Okay, the query did get set properly. That's good. And that's good. And it looks like response was good. We're going to go ahead and set our tweets to response.datastatuses and see that it's not building. Again, and now let's search. Let's search T-Dondich. Hey! That worked-ish. We got some errors here because key is not defined. We know about that. So we did get our tweets back, and it looks like anything that mentions T-Dondich or matches T-Dondich is indeed coming back. So that's cool. We got it. We got it working. So what are some gotchas here that I've learned? Yeah, text input has on change text and on change. I quickly used on change. Yeah, all the fireflies. Yay, indeed. That was getting really frustrating. Doing inline handlers is definitely very messy in here. The way they do that now, obviously in this flat list usage, you see we're assigning data, but then render item gets called is an inline function, right? And they have some indentation here, and that format kind of makes it a little bit easier to read. But God, this return, ugh, I just don't like the way that is. It's frustrating. And then everything looks okay now. And also set state, you can just pass in a regular JavaScript object and I'll merge the changes with the state. You don't always have to assign all of the items in your data. Okay. That looks good. And so here's the problem. Missing keys for items. Make sure to specify a key property on each item or provide a custom key extractor. And I think we want to do a custom key extractor. I think that would be awesome. Custom key extractor React. Let's see what that is. So we're looking at the flat list component. Key extractor tells the list to use the IDs for the React keys instead of the default key property. Let's take a look at their example here. Render item, my list item, yes. Key extractor. And key extractor will point to a function that is item index, and then you just return whatever it is. So let's do that. Let's go to our render, and in flat list, we'll just add it here and say key extractor equals item index return item.id. Remember, ID was the ID of the tweet. So let's just search that again. And sure enough, nice and quick, right? That's good. That's good. Looks like we've made a lot of good progress. We can definitely make this a little bit cleaner. Let's do some styling on our tweet cards just to kind of tighten it up a little bit. Let's make sure our background color is white for our app. And we are going to go into our tweet component, and we already see that I created a style sheet here. Up here, style sheet.create card. We're going to go ahead and say padding is 8 pixel. Oh, 8. We need to look at the style for React, and I think we're going to do that in just a moment. We want to take a look at the style sheet and see how does it handle padding. Can you use EMs or pixels? How does it kind of do that kind of sizing? And I think that's something important for us to check out. So it's nice and fast, which is pretty sweet. It says don't use PX or EM or REM or anything. Yeah, but what is then the unit? We don't see it actually doing any padding here, right? We don't see any padding. And if we were to just boost this up a little bit more and save. Okay, I guess it is doing the padding. Don't mind me. Obviously, it won't pick up my changes immediately. Units are relative to pixel on the display. Okay. All right. So what we want to do then is we want to align the image and have the text to the right. And how are we going to do that? Let's look at React Native layouts. Layout with Flexbox. So a component can specify the layout of its children using the Flexbox algorithm. Flexbox is designed to provide a consistent layout on different screen sizes. You will normally use a combination of flex direction, align items, and justify content to achieve the right layout. So I'm not a pro at Flexbox. I'm not. the defaults are different, with flex direction defaulting to column instead of row. And the flex parameter only supporting a single number. So what I think that is so we have view and we have flex, but it looks like the default here is row. Flex direction looks like it's defaulting to row. So I don't think that's accurate. It says that the children would be would be there. Image, style, width, height 50. I would expect that then to have these things be here. But does it all have to wrap into views? That's a question. You know why? Most likely is we do need to probably have all those things as... No. Sub-items aren't set to flex 1. Right? That's weird. Let's see here. Well, that's great. It even has animated GIF support working. That's pretty spiff. If we want that text over to the right, how do we do that? Just for giggles, let's do style flex equals 1. And you probably have to pass that in. Let's just make sure. Yeah. Still not. Flex direction row. Well, that's what it is right now. I see it as row. Right? In the in here, I see that. I don't see how that would make a change. What? To me, that's column. Does anyone else see that as confusing? Does anyone else see that as confusing? Row is left to right? Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. I guess that's Flexbox, and I guess putting your stuff into that where technically that doesn't mean that each item, child item, is its own row, becoming basically like block elements, but instead everything is in its own row. Okay. Okay. Okay, I can see that. So what we'll do is we will nest this in a view. And in here we're gonna have style flex direction. Is it COL? No. Let's see how that looks. That's exactly what I wanted. That's good. Let's add a little bit of margin to our image. Let's see if that works. Yep, that's looking pretty good. And let's make that username a little bit more poppy. So what? Well, what's the default size here? So let's try 16. What does that do? Might be the standard size. So let's just 24. What's it complaining about? Oh, because it needs font size. Try 18. Are you gonna see that again with the not picking up changes? Isn't that frustrating? All the Fireflies, is there any way to tell this thing to just pick up the changes and rebuild? So frustrating. Can't tell. Cannot tell. Nothing's picking up the changes. Nothing. Just restart the packager. Just restart the whole thing. Why not? Isn't that frustrating? But hey, all the Fireflies, thank you for giving me tidbits like that. Aphathis, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Apathis, thank you as well. You are definitely helping out. I'm definitely starting to see a little bit, but I will tell you absolutely my honest reaction. React is more frustrating than Vue.js. I feel like Vue.js has that solved, and as soon as we have more ability to create native mobile apps with Vue, whether that's with Weeks or not, I think we're going to be in really good shape. And you can't even, it's still not rebuilding. There we go. Building JavaScript bundle. Let's see if it picks up the changes. Sure did. Okay, the font size for that seemed to work out. But the problem now is that the width of the tweet text is off. So that's a little weird. That's a little weird. When it comes to design, sometimes the color of the font is a better distinction than a higher font size. I agree. I agree. And the line height is a little off too. You know what? Because you said so, we'll change that. But the weird thing is, so of course it says finished JavaScript bundle running on here, but it doesn't actually run, of course. It doesn't send a new build. I'm getting frustrated, folks. It's really, really frustrating. Do that all over again. So my question is, why is it in my layout that the text in here is overflowing and not being bound to that? It's probably because of the padding. And that's changing the height, that obviously is. Obviously. What you can do is change the padding of the outside container. Let's take the padding out for now. wonderful CSS padding and width determination here. No, that's not it. There's still too much of the text of the tweet going to the other size. That's weird. That is definitely weird. Align items stretch, maybe. Maybe. Stretch the fill of the container. Still respect min width, max width. That is the standard that we would want. But for some reason, of course, you can see that the text is overflowing. And that is interesting. If we were to do text and we just say style width equals 100. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely constraining it there. Can you use CSS Grid with React Native? Doesn't look like it. It looks like Flexbox is the way that it tries to do the layout, and that's what you're stuck with. So you got to be very careful. And because I'm not familiar enough with Flexbox, I am probably using it incorrectly. I would assume that this would adhere to the width, but it looks like it's the text is taking also the width of the profile picture, which is weird. Which is definitely weird. I don't know how to fix that. I don't know how to fix that. Let's see, nested children width. Future Tuesday. Hey, welcome to the stream. You said this is a cool game for learning some Flexbox concepts. Flexbox Froggy? Flexbox Froggy. I will have to check that out. The scope of Flex formatting context, etc. I'm going to check this out. Flexboxfroggy.com. Oh my God. You know what? It is 9:48. I'm going to do Flexbox Froggy with everybody. And let's see what the heck this is. A game where you help Froggy and friends by writing CSS code. Guide this frog to the lily pad on the right by using the justify content property, which aligns items horizontally and accepts the following values. So pond is display flex, and then justify content will align items to the right side of the container. Okay. There it is. So that's alignment. I get that. Alignment of children. Future Tuesday, thank you for suggesting this. It's flexboxfroggy.com. This is now my cute little intro into Flexbox. So use justify content again to help these frogs get to their lily pads. Remember that this CSS property aligns items horizontally and accepts the following values. Center would probably be it. It would center both items together. So let's try that. Justify content, center, yes. Oh, I'm doing great. Help all three frogs find their lily pads by using justify content. This time lily pads have space all around them. If you find yourself forgetting, you can hover over the property name to view them. Space between or space around? Let's try that. Perfect. Let's see what space between would do. Yeah, see, that would do equal spacing, but between the items. So yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Cute. Now the lily pads on the edges have drifted to the shore. Okay, so we know this one. Justify content space between. Yeah. Perfect. Okay, this is all about children alignment, so this is good. Now use align items to help the frogs get to the bottom of the pond. This CSS property aligns items vertically. So align items baseline. No? Oh, flex end. Okay. I get that. Justify content, and this will be center, and then align items. Center? Perfect. Future Tuesday, I'm rocking it. Thank you so much for this. So far, though, it's all about children alignments. Let's see what this is. This time, for some lily pads with space around them using a combination of that. So align items, flex bottom or flex end, and then justify content space around. Okay. Whoever built this is awesome. Oh, and you can play, and they have something for CSS Grid, which is pretty cool. I want to take a look at that. Oh, this is cool. I'm going to have to share this with friends. This is a cool resource. I dig it. Let's see here. The frogs need to get in the same order as their lily pads using flex direction. The CSS property defines the direction items are placed in the container and accepts the following values. Okay, flex direction. Row reverse. Okay. Items are placed opposite to the text direction. If we were to take this out, so the important thing is that it reverses the order. It's not just shoving everything over to right justified, right? So that's something to take hold of there. And then help the frogs to their columns of lily pads. So we're going to do flex direction, and then we're going to say column. So flex direction. Here's the thing. Items are placed the same as the text direction. That I get now. Column, yes. Row reverse, good stuff. Column reverse, okay. Jesse Kinner, thank you so much for joining the stream, and thank you so much for the follow. Do remember to join us tomorrow starting at 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. It's going to be a full day stream. Going to be working on my Nintendo emulator written in JavaScript and Vue.js. I promise that JavaScript code in my Vue.js code is way better than my React code. I promise. Right now, we're taking a look at a resource that Future Tuesday has shared. It's called flexboxfroggy.com. If you are new to Flexbox or haven't used it as often, which I have not, then this is a very cool little learning tutorial. And I'm about halfway through, and I'm going to fly through this a little bit. So, help the frogs get to their own lily pads. Although they seem close, it will take both flex direction and justify content to get them there. Notice that when you set the direction to a reversed row or column, start and ends are also reversed. So we're going to do flex direction, row reversed, right? Row reverse, and then we're going to do justify content, and the option there is flex start. Yes, but actually we're in reverse, so there we go. That's cool. Okay. So far, I'm not finding a lot of use for that yet. And then help the frogs show lily pads. We're going to do justify content. And I really like this tool because it does hover over items. So we're going to do justify content. Let's do first align items. And align items is flex end. And then for that, we want justify content to be, ooh, this is a tough one. Align items, flex, oh, I didn't do, yeah, so I did not do that. I need to do flex direction, column, and then we'll do justify content, and that is flex end. Perfect. There we go. Flex direction. But we're still not dealing yet with the issue that we had with our React Native app, right? And that is the Flexbox sizing. But I think we'll get there soon. Help the frogs find their lily pads using flex direction and justify content. So flex direction, we are going to do column, and then we are going to do justify content. And it looks like we're going to probably have to do column reverse. Justify content with space between. And yes, reverse. Okay. Nice. And now we have to do a little bit more. We want to do flex direction. That should still be the same. Let's do align items. And that should be center. Justify content along the main axis. And then we need to do flex direction row reverse. Perfect. I'm a Flexbox ninja now. Okay, sometimes reversing the row or column order of a container is not enough. In these cases, we can apply the order property to individual items. By default, items have a value of 0, but we can use this property to set it to a positive or negative integer value. So this is doing kind of like sorting here. So let's do order 3. Good. Is it 0 indexed? Looks like. Or maybe it's not even changing it now. I don't know if it was 0 indexed. Let me try that again. Order. Rank Up David says, cool game, but these challenges don't seem practical. Well, I am learning a little bit more about Flexbox and some of the properties there. And Flexbox is becoming kind of like the de facto kind of layout engine for web applications. Bootstrap 4 uses Flexbox, and obviously you see React Native uses Flexbox. So understanding the ordering of things will be important. So I can see that. And hopefully we're getting to a point where we can deal about sizing. I agree, Rank Up David. I want to get there. Use the order property to send the red frog to its lily pad. So let's do order -4. Super simple. Super simple. I agree. I'm getting to the point where I need to know about width. Another property you can apply to individual items is align self. This property accepts the same values as align items and its value for the specific item. So align self, and this will be to flex in. Okay, we get it. Come on, let's talk about sizing. All right, order 5, and then align self flex in. Okay, we're getting it. Let's get to sizing. Ooh, I think we're starting to see some stuff here. Oh no, the frogs are all squeezed onto a single row of lily pads. Spread them out using the flex wrap property, which accepts the following values. What is the default? Let's take a look at that. Flex wrap default. What is the default? No wrap. That's interesting. Let's take a look at some demos here. Okay. I get it. Wrap reverse is kind of cool though. But nothing yet. It's still not coming to me. Flex. Excuse me. I'm gonna do wrap. And normally Flexbox. It's a little weird how I have to resize my entire window for this, huh? So that might, but those are not children elements. That's the problem. And no wrap. And I'm assuming that it's based off of individual elements. Help this army of frogs form 3 orderly columns using a combination of flex direction and flex wrap. Let's do flex direction, and the options here is that. So we'll do column, and we will do flex wrap. Cute. Get it? Come on, sizing. Don't ruin it for me. Future Tuesday, are we going to talk about sizing in this? The two properties, flex direction and flex wrap, are used so often that the shorthand property flex flow was created to combine them. I want to look real quick at my source code here, because I'm a little concerned that this text is wrapping, and I want to see if there is perhaps something else that is changing this. So container is flex 1, right? And this is definitely setting it up as column, okay? Text input button, and then flat list. The flat list doesn't have any special styling. And then the tweet doesn't have any real styling, you know. And this is a little frustrating. Future Tuesday says, hey, looking ahead, and may not get into super into child sizing. Well, that's what we're trying to figure out, unfortunately. Flex child width. I want to take a look at this. This is the one thing I want to solve here. This is definitely an interesting one. Also try using the inspector maybe. Okay, so this is a text and it looks like the width is 320. And it shouldn't be 320. Right? It should be 320 minus the width of the image. By the way, great call on the that. So we have order and then flex grow. And I don't want to get too deep into this. Because this is definitely worth another stream, right? I'm wondering if we can do... yeah, I'm wondering if we can do calc. Let's take a look at React Native and the style sheet guide. You want the text to not wrap? No, I want it to wrap, and it is wrapping. But the problem is you can see that this text area is actually 320 pixels wide when it shouldn't be. The entire width of the phone is 320 pixels wide. The problem is we obviously have this area aligned to the right of the image of the profile picture, right? And so we need to take 50 pixels off of the width. And I'm wondering if you can do calculations or not. And I don't know. That's the hard part. Because we're not setting the width of these items to be 100%. They should automatically grow, right? If we do style width 100%, right? And we toggle the inspector, click on an item. That text is 585. That's not right. That's not right. But I mean, if we did the math ourselves, and we could, the 270, that will work just fine. Right? Now it fits within our limits. And I think that's enough for us. I know it shouldn't be happening. Why is the width 320 for that? Why does the image have flex 1? Because it shouldn't. It totally shouldn't. And if that is the reason, and I didn't catch that, yeah, that's not the reason. That doesn't do anything. So yeah, the question is, why is the width 320? But you know what? We're going to leave it right now for this. It's not the right way to do it. It's not the right way to do it. But I'm going to find out the right way, and in a future stream, we'll show that off, okay? And in the future stream, we will work on the more cleanup of this, more UI UX. We want to show something when there are no tweets matching and things like that. We want to clean up the UI a little bit. I do want to make this a open repo though, so I'm gonna go ahead and create that. And let's go ahead and create that real quick together so that you can grab this source code. We're gonna go ahead and go to my GitHub, which is github.com/tdondich. I'm going to create a new repository. And we will call it React Native Starter. And we'll make this public. This way you guys can grab it. Before I do commit it though, I'm going to go ahead and take this out. Okay. And then you can put your own Twitter consumer key and secret credentials in here and get to the point where we're at, right? And you all can grab it. Let's see here. We definitely need to add all of our files here. Let's go ahead and do that. Rig Up David said, wait, how you have flex direction on child view? Don't you need to add display flex to it as well? We will take a look at that in just a moment. I just want to make sure this is committed. Can we push? Still says it's going. All right, it's here. It's at tdondich/React Native-Starter. Just letting you know. And I'm just going to really quick look at that code that you were talking about in here. It says, hey, wait, how you have flex direction on child view, don't you need to add display flex to it also? It should inherit. It should automatically be flex 1. Yeah. But, yeah, flex should be the default. Yeah. But you have a little bit of a... No, I think that it wouldn't make a difference. Okay, so we have committed the code. That's great. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and end the stream now. Thank you so much for joining me all the way through this. I really appreciate it. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. sharp Pacific time, I'm going to be up and I'm going to be streaming, working on my Nintendo emulator in JavaScript and Vue.js. If you go to my GitHub and you go to Vue 2A03-EMU, that is the source code for my Nintendo emulator. By all means, check it out, download it, grab it. We are going to be working on this code tomorrow, and we are going to finally get it displaying some pretty pictures. All right. Thank you so much again for joining us on this stream. Please check out my past streams. You can take a look at my first attempt at React Native, as well as some other interesting topics, including pimping out Visual Studio Code, a fantastic editor. I'm switching to it full-time, and you can take a look at that to see how you can also make it so that Studio Code works faster for you. Until tomorrow, thank you so much for joining. See you guys.